Okay, you're declaring a thing. You're not sure you believe it yet. You're not sure if you're walking in that yet, but you're declaring. You declare it enough until one day you feel your brain and your spirit, because you're 18 inches away from breakthrough.
Mm.
The minute your heart and your brain get in sync with that verbiage, you know what? I do deserve that. You know what? I am that guy. You know what? I am that girl. Then what happens is now it goes from a declaration to a confession, and everything changes. Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast. We are doing a part 2 with the one and only Santi with Optic Element, and we're doing it because we just cracked the surface last time. I felt like we opened Pandora's box, and no one likes watching Days of Our Lives on a Friday, and you got to wait till Monday to figure out if Bo really killed that girl. And so I don't want to do that to you. That's why we're here. For those of you that have no idea what Days of Our Lives are and don't watch soap operas, that's probably a good thing. So that reference means nothing to you. But I think I grew up in the era where my parents were watching Days of Our Lives every day. At least my poor mom was. But I guess everybody needs some sort of drama, but we're not here to talk about Days of Our Lives or drama. But before we get started, we're going to come visit my friend right here, the Great Lion. We got it right here. It's finally hot off the press. This is my author's copy. This is my kids' journal that I've been experimenting with my kids for a long time. And the reason I really want to bring it up on this podcast is a lot of adults don't even know the power of journaling. And they wonder why they get stuck in life. And I will tell you, one of the greatest things I learned from one of my mentors, Dr. Patrick Gentempo, very, very successful. He always did these breakouts, and I would go to them up in the mountains. You get away, and he would bring in this guy, Nathaniel Branden, and he wrote the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, and I think he wrote like 20 other books. But the book, the six Pillars of Self-Esteem, changed my life forever. And people all the time ask me, you seem very confident. How'd you get like this? How'd you get like that? I'm going to tell you, it was through journaling, reading that book, realizing that so many people are insecure in life, in relationships, in business, and whatever, because they've never done the work. And journaling is one of the greatest tools you can do to help get your internal dialogue out and onto paper. And just by getting it out, it's like a lot of self-healing. There's so much gold on the inside of all of us, but you can journal your way through it and to it. So if it's good for adults, good for entrepreneurs, business people to clear their mind, why not train up a child in the way they should go? And I'm going to tell you, this is exactly what this journal is all about for your kids. So if you have a kid between the ages of 8 and 16, this journal would be for them. Obviously, they got to be able to read and write. And if you got some all-star younger, then do it. But my daughter helped me with this. Really proud of it. It is over 300 pages of epicness. And really, it could be a 90-day journal or it could be a year-long journal, just depending on how often you're journaling. But this is just to get into the habit of getting what's in your mind, what's in your heart out on paper. So wanted to bring that up since it just got hot off the press. So thank you for that shameless plug. I might change everything after talking to Santi today because our topic today is branding.
Yep.
So, dear Lord, who knows? I could get totally convicted and I'm going to change the whole brand if I learn a lot of things today, which I'm sure I will. So, I don't want to waste any more time. We're excited. Optic Element's your agency.
Yep.
And you've been doing a lot of radical things. I love watching you. Not only how you operate, but I love watching how you lead your team. I love how you are have a mind that is a system-based mind. Like you create systems, which if a lot of you don't know, entrepreneurs are only entrepreneurs if you have systems. If you have a business, then that's called self-employed. You're a solopreneur. An entrepreneur is a serial person that can think in systems to scale. Scalability is what sets people apart between being successful and then hitting a place where there's a ceiling over their life. What I love about when I talk to you, you have a mind that sees things in depth, and that's why you can scale. That's why you can take on clients at a high level. And I know we weren't here to talk about that, but I just think it's so fascinating how so many agencies. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody has an agent. They're popping
Yeah.
up like
Yeah, it's a new rapper nowadays.
it's the new rapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an
Yeah.
agency.
I think it's so funny. When I grew up, everybody wanted to be a rapper, at least where I'm from. I'm from Broward County, and I was like doing videos since I was like in middle school, and like nobody really wanted to do videos with me. I had to like pull teeth to get my friends to do these like dumb skits. And then now, fast forward in today's world, everybody has a camera now. Everybody wants to have a agency. It's like the new rapper where it looks enticing. It looks like, oh, the lifestyle's cool, but it's a lot of work. And it's similar, like, like it's just to the, I guess, the attraction of like, oh, you can get to work from home, you can travel, all this stuff. It's not as sexy as it looks, but it is, for at least for me, rewarding. So you got to really love it.
Yeah,
So, but it
a
is
lot of
really
people love the
interesting.
sexy part.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people try and just they just can't knock it, and it's just because they're not truly passionate about it, and it takes, like, the passion that I have for it probably is what keeps me, keeps me, like, I guess, pushing,
Yeah,
because it is hard too sometimes. I mean, but I personally enjoy it, and I love working with creatives. I love working with entrepreneurs. So it's
you
like,
got to rein creatives in, man.
yeah,
These
yeah, yeah,
creatives all over the place.
yeah. No,
I
100%.
wish I was more creative. I mean, I just got all these thoughts and ideas and just been in the business world so long,
Mhm.
but I'm just like, man, creatives drive me crazy.
Yeah,
I can't get them into line. So you have a
yeah.
gift
It's
being able to
true.
rein them in.
It's like herding cats, is what I tell people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
might
yeah.
be busy, so you got to herd me in, but it's not because I'm creative.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like everybody's creative at a certain extent. You're pretty creative. I feel like you're a good visionary. I feel like that takes
Yeah.
a lot of creativity. I feel like the creatives of the world that like actually like make things happen, like videographers,
Yep.
graphic designers, those guys. They're for sure. They're almost like little mavericks on their own, where they want to go on their own thing, and they want to, like, it's almost like it's like taming a wild horse. Like, there's some videographers that, like, even like Ryan. I love Ryan, and before Ryan was part of our team, he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna be a videographer." And I was like, "No, you'll come back." And then eventually he's like, "Hey, I really love what you're doing," and wanted to be part of it. So he's a wild horse. Now he's tamed, and now he's crushing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's still a racehorse.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Racehorses, you just put them in a lane
Mm-hmm.
and then you go out and win some big money.
100%.
I mean,
No,
you don't want to be
100%.
a racehorse out in the field by yourself because you're stubborn. You're a stallion,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can go around going, "I'm a stallion." But you
Yeah.
know what? You're not racing for money, bro.
That's true. Yeah.
Stay in your lane and watch it win.
100%.
I'll get
Yeah.
on that thing and ride you. Let's
Dude,
go.
yeah. No.
I mean, I feel
100%.
like that's like coaching. I
Yeah.
feel like it's what I do. I mean, I don't coach losers.
Mm-hmm. That's
You know,
true.
I get all these guys. I just ended a 12-week coaching session with the guy, and he got a little emotional, just
Mm-hmm.
very grateful. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, that gold was in you. I'm grateful to work with someone like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could tell after my onboarding call
Mm.
whether I'm going to coach with them or not. And the only deciding factor is that guy or that woman gonna let me push hard enough
Mm.
that it will break that stallion, like do it your way
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
or do you want to get in a lane and make some real money? And I can tell that after the onboarding call. So I'm like, bro, I'm so grateful
Mm.
you're honoring me and you see all the gold. But the truth is, it was already in you.
Mm.
You let me push it hard enough so you'd win the race. And so I could tell it was a revelation for him.
Yeah.
You know,
Very,
they
very
thought
similar.
I didn't build them.
Mm-hmm.
I just squeezed them hard enough. What was already in there came out.
Yeah. No,
So
100%. Yeah.
I think that's what you do. You organize. You help me get my thoughts in
Mm.
order, and you put video and make them sexy.
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
I'd just be talking head like, "Hey, everybody, this is what you need to do." No one will watch me. We're not in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
I can't believe how many new YouTube channels come out all the time.
So a lot of people start YouTube channels, but nobody ever finish. Like, I'd say a small percentage finish them. It's even
Mm.
even like, I think I was telling Zoe the other day, like, even with your podcast, like, you've been very consistent, and the bar is very low. It only takes 21 episodes to be part of the top 1% podcasts in the world.
What?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? The bar is so low.
That is crazy, but
Yeah.
it is a lot more work than you
Hmm.
think of.
It is.
And I
It
think
is.
people
Yeah.
think like I got a lot of info. And then what happens is you start doing it, you run out of things to talk about,
Yeah,
and
it
I'm
feels
like,
like it. Yeah, you're like,
how is a 21-year-old
yeah,
got
that's true.
21 years of experience
Yeah.
that is going to be able to run this podcast long term?
Yep.
Like, you got to get some
Yeah.
stuff under your belt.
That's true,
So,
yeah. Yeah, it is a lot more work, but the bar's so low that people don't even know that either. Thing is, people don't really realize how low the bar is. So I think it's really interesting how easy it is to stand out. It's like it's easy, but it's a lot more intimidating. But the bar's so low, even for like marriage and like even being a upstanding man, like you just to be an average man that's just at least polite is in today's society like next level. You
who
know what I
wants to
mean?
be average?
Yeah, it's like
I'm
it's
tired of hanging out
interesting.
with average dudes.
That's true, yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of that, could segue talk about average. I mean, how many brands, how
Mhm.
important is branding to set you apart so you're not average, that you
Yeah,
stand out?
that's a great question. I think so branding in general, I feel like before even going into that aspect of
I want to
of
move this
of
sexy
branding.
mic closer.
Yeah, go for it. The the thing is that a lot of people misunderstand what branding is. I think people think branding, like when you think of as an entrepreneur, you're like, I need to level up my branding. So they think like, oh, I got to get my website right, I got to get my logo right. And although those components are not necessarily what branding is, they play a part for sure,
Yeah.
but it's not what a brand is. So I think first you have to understand what is a brand. A brand is in simple terms a reputation. You don't get to decide what your brand is. So you can't tell me, hey, my brand is XYZ. I'm the one that decides what your brand is based off my experience with interacting with you or your
Ooh,
content or your
that's good.
experience. So it's similar like a reputation. You can't go around telling people like, "Hey, I'm a high level entrepreneur and I know how to do XYZ," and people are just going to say, "Okay, cool." Like they're not like
I believe you.
they're going to go based off of how they feel. Like if you
Yeah.
give them information that associates you with those categories. And so we can't control what our brand is from a perspective of like giving titles to it. But what we do as a company is we reverse engineer all the elements that take place and to orchestrate how to make somebody feel to point them in that direction. So if you want to be known as, let's say, a creative that does wedding videos specifically, then you make content around that. You make yourself subject matter expert and so on and so forth. So branding is a reputation.
So you're saying
Mhm.
just because you have a website doesn't mean you have a brand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Just because
100%.
you have a logo doesn't mean you have a brand.
Yeah. I think, well, not that you don't have a brand, it's just your brand is really weak. Because I think at the end of the day, everybody has a brand, whether they know it or not. Similar how everybody is in business, whether they know it or not. But whether it's strong or weak is really what that is. So, like people who focus on the small things have a weak brand.
Yeah. If I say the word Yellowstone,
Hmm.
not only is that a brand, that gives you a feeling.
Yep.
Like if you watched Yellowstone, man, people, they either love it
Hmm.
or they're like, no, that's too much for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a brand. I mean, people
Hmm.
go and get their own shirts made. My buddy just started his own company, and I laughed at him because he sent me some swag. I called him up, like, bro, what do you think, you're Yellowstone? And he goes, bro, that's where I took it. I'm like, but it gave me the Yellowstone
Yeah.
feeling.
Mm,
So if you can get a brand that gives you a feeling,
yeah.
that's like the ultimate
100%.
where
Yeah.
you get. Like,
Yeah, that's really all what branding is. Because I mean, if we could go back to like, the word reputation, I think people understand the word reputation. I think brand is like feels like a word that's thrown around. It feels a little complex, but if you think of it, and just replace it with the word reputation. Like you have a reputation with people based off of how you made them feel,
yeah,
right? If you're consistently, uplifting people, then your reputation is, oh wow, Dr. Matt is an uplifter, right? So similar with businesses, it's the same thing. Like if you're telling stories that make people feel inspired or telling stories that make people feel like they can jump through, or like break through a wall and do anything in the, like that, those are the things that will attract those people, right? And then eventually they'll consume your stuff because they believe with what you believe in. So it's extremely like honestly right now is probably the most important thing when it comes to a business because it's what's going to breed loyalty,
so you're saying some of these brands are not accidental.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, 100%. Like Nike, like SpaceX, like all like even like Tesla, like these companies go super in depth on the type of demographic that they want. Even
Oh,
Lululemon, like they really understand the psychology of the people that they're talking to,
yeah.
and they foster. It's almost like it's like. Have you ever seen Inception? It's like the
The movie.
yeah, the movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where they go into dreams.
Yep.
So I love that reference because what they do is when they go in to hijack your dream, they create an environment for you to feel comfortable in and
Yep.
to feel like you're in your own
Wow, I
dream, right?
never thought
And
about
and
it.
in order to manipulate you. That's really what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So they do that where it's like they down to the rug, so you feel like this is your home. Let's say we're in a dream and I've designed this whole layout for you to feel like you're in your own home, in your own dream, and then for me to then feed you information or extract information from you.
That is
So it's
amazing.
the same concept but more psychologically, right? Where they foster, whether it's through video content, website content, whether it's through products, whether whatever, to make you feel like, oh, I resonate with this, and then that in turns, gets you to either purchase something or reference
I
it
think that's
or
what happens
whatever.
late night on Instagram. I think they listen to me. Next thing I know, it's like they know what I need.
Mm,
Getting sold supplements,
yeah,
getting sold. I'm like, how do they know
it's
me?
insane. Yeah, that's next level too. It's like it's based off of like again like the algorithm, what you're saying, what you're doing, what you're interacting with.
Where you're going?
Yep, and that's all data, and that's why even think about it this way, like, Instagram is free to post on. You don't have to pay to be on the app. You don't have to pay to post anything. So is Facebook, because they don't make money off of you being on the app, like necessarily from posting. They make money off of your attention. So it's like their cash cow is you being on their platform.
Mm.
So now what they're doing is they're trying to orchestrate how can we get you on there longer by learning what you like, what you don't like, and it's all data driven. So really their business is data. And I think for us, even like when we approach business, I mean, I think it's extremely foolish for you to approach business without data, to feel like, okay, where is your demographic located, what are their pain points, what are their struggles, and then craft a brand around that. Like even with Nike, right? Nike, they craft around, like, they're an athletic brand, but it's not about like, just being able to do these cool things, but it's about the possibility of like, oh, just do it. Like even if you're, let's say, overweight, you can also
Red
be part of
Bull.
them. Red Bull is
Come on,
amazing with
give
their
me some
branding.
wings.
Exactly. Go on Instagram right now on Red Bull, you'll see no product actual, like you won't see like a product video of like the can. You won't see any of that. It's all lifestyle stuff. It's the
It's all
people.
lifestyle stuff.
Yeah, it's like people jumping off like a cliff, with like, one of those squirrel suits, and then just, flying, gliding around or whatever, like doing like this really cool stunt, and they're just wearing the brand because they want to associate like this lifestyle. These people are the type of people that
Yeah, if you're
gravitate.
crazy, you
Mhm.
drink Red Bull.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Literally, yeah. If you're
But you'd be
wild.
crazy to be drinking Red Bull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right.
Uh, it's so true. Branding's a thing. I read this book a long time ago called The Love Mark.
Mm,
I my buddy, he has a couple companies that have well, one of his companies passed the $15 billion mark.
nice. That's
Pretty
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
But he has 17 companies. His worst company made $1 million net rev last year.
Oh
His
wow.
worst company.
Dang.
He's always coming up with new ideas. But I went to go visit him.
Mhm,
I was just adjusting him, being
mhm.
his chiropractor, and he's taking me around the world, Egypt, Bali,
Oh, nice.
and anyways, what was amazing is he had told me my branding sucks. And I was young. Like, what do you mean my branding sucks? I got a website, I got a
Mhm,
logo. And I told him about this new business I wanted to do. It was my first coaching
mhm,
business ever called Power Shifters. And it was in, I think, 2008.
mm,
And he wanted to see my branding. And he's like, oh, I can't let you start this business. You'll fail. I'm like, I'm not going to fail based off branding. But his belief
mhm,
was, well, you might not fail, but you'll never make an impact.
mm,
And I was like, okay, fine. So he got me on the phone with his branding expert who didn't ask me anything about what I wanted to put on my website or anything. He just picked my brain, asked me a ton of questions.
yep.
And by the time I got on the plane from Chicago back to San Diego, he'd sent me this email and came up with these color schemes, fonts, logos, everything for my company. And
Nice.
I'd been working on the side with, kind of like back in the day, it's not like Fiverr or anything, but it was just this little startup. Like they thought they were awesome creative.
Yeah, yeah.
I looked at their idea and I looked at what this was. I was like, oh, this was like a
Yeah.
personality. And it
Yep.
freaked me out. I called him. I said, how did you land here? I mean, this is awesome.
Mhm,
I mean, it had every color scheme you could think of, all the different pastels and color schemes, things I couldn't do, things that would go totally against my brand.
mhm.
I never thought that in depth in my
Yep.
life. It opened up a world to me.
Mm,
That's why we're here, is
yeah.
because wow. So now when I look at people, I'm not a judgmental guy, but I'm subconsciously judging them on their brand
Yeah.
because I'd be like, they don't get it.
Mm.
They think if you really believe in what you're doing, you're going to put some time in. So then they sent me the book Love Mark, and they says at the next level above branding is a love mark, that there is a mark on or a logo that is so big that
Yeah.
people have a feeling attached to it.
Mm.
And then they explained all these different ones. Like, they were getting like Ralph Lauren.
Mhm.
You could just see the polo player on a shirt and you know what that is.
Yep. Yeah.
So they have a Ralph Lauren logo. They have just a Ralph.
Yeah,
They
they're
have a
different. Yeah, they're different types.
RF, and
Mhm.
then they just have a dude on a horse playing polo. Like,
Mhm.
we all know Ralph Lauren.
Mhm.
And it's amazing because that brand, if you're into Ralph Lauren, you just know right when you see it. And so many companies have done that from a big to a small. Everything can
Yeah.
evoke a response. And I was thinking to
Mhm.
myself, man, that is brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
And I need to think bigger about branding.
Yeah.
So how do you help people on that journey with branding? And how important do you think it is in
Yeah.
today's, that was, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Is it still key today?
Oh yeah, it's so think about it this way, branding, like your reputation, is built through a series of events. And a series of events all really is just a story, right? So stories have been in our history since we've begun like existing, right? Think of the Bible. The Bible's one big story.
One big story.
Yeah, exactly. Like think of even like science. Science tells one big story. Everything is just a story,
Like even
right?
Emerge now
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
has a story.
Exactly.
Emerge is
Yeah.
now a brand.
Exactly, right? And every like, cause anything like people that you know, right? People think of the people that you like think very highly of. The first thing you think about is their story. Like, oh, this guy came from this and did this and
Mm.
did that. So that's really all what brand is. And the reason why branding is so important, why it's always going to be important, is because of the foundation of what it is. It's just accumulation of events, which really is just a story. And storytelling is the like essence of our being,
Does
you know?
everybody have a story?
For sure. And I think this is something that a lot of people get really, I guess maybe where limiting beliefs come in, they get a little bit messed up on is they think that like, for example, they may look at you and they're like, well, Dr. Matt, has an incredible story. Like he went from, starting this, starting as a chiropractor, getting paid like less than minimum wage to then eventually owning his own chiropractic to then being a pastor. And like, you have such an amazing story. How can I ever compare to that?
Yeah.
And what they're doing is there's this, I forget the name of this mountain, but there's this mountain somewhere in the world that is actually one of the tallest mountains, and it has one of the highest peaks. And when you get on that top of that peak, you can look at every other mountain, and almost every other mountain looks bigger than that one, but it's not. And it's the same concept of the fact that we get on this peak of our mountain where we then look at everybody else's peaks and think that, oh, like their story is far better than ours, not knowing what we're standing on.
Bro, you're like listening to my preach last night where I talked about
Yeah,
what breeds insecurity is
100%.
comparison and envy. And if
Hmm.
you're always sitting around comparing yourself, all it does is breed a bigger insecurity in you. And then you do nothing in life because of your analysis paralysis. You get
Yeah.
stuck. And so therefore you never step into what God has for you.
100%. Yeah. And that's a big, and believe it or not, it's a big component to get through with people. I think that for us, like we've had clients that had wanted to start in branding and get their social media game up. And when we go to shoot with them, you could tell there's a lot of like limiting beliefs. Like part of my job is also like, I feel like I'm part-time therapist sometimes because I'm like, have to like talk them through like, hey, like, you got this, like, and they start to compare themselves and it's like, no, like, and then have to like bring out like what makes them special. And it's a mental game for sure. And there's some people who already understand that and they're good to go. And
Yeah.
those are the people who are obviously who like just crush really easily, but they've probably done that work elsewhere. So anybody can do it, whether you're, thinking that your story's lame, like there's I don't think there's anybody in this world similar to, like even in the Christian world who doesn't have a testimony worth telling. You know what I mean? Some people may say, hey, I grew up in a Christian home. I didn't have this crazy, lifestyle where I went and partied. And that doesn't matter. Your testimony is still powerful to somebody. So the same applies for business.
You know what those testimonies are people don't get? I want to hear them
Hmm.
because I want my kids not to go through the crap I went through. And said,
Yeah.
yet I don't know many people that stayed pure,
Yeah.
that stayed on track,
100%.
that
Yeah.
stayed, you know,
Yeah.
on the right road through high school, through college, and came out on the other side. That is even a more powerful story because dang,
Yeah, I
To the
agree.
broken, mine sounds pretty good. Oh, God can use anybody. But no, to the ones that
Mhm.
I want to shepherd and get my kids around listening to those, it's even more tangible. So it's all in the eyes of the beholder. But
Yeah, I agree, and even something that's good for you, because especially you being in the coaching world, like, what would you even say to somebody who is in that position, like, where it's like, "Hey," like, and I'm sure you have people who say that, we're like, "Hey, Doctor Matt, I don't think that my story's worth telling. I don't think I'm not that interesting. I'm a regular guy. I don't have a crazy life." Like, how would you get them to believe that from a coaching perspective? Like, what would you have them shift in their mentality?
actually, I do get that quite a lot.
Mhm.
And it's just really a belief system. It's usually a lot of people that have listened to spoken words over them. They've actually
Mm.
never been around inspiring people.
Oh.
So what I do is I send them on a 30-day deep dive
Mm.
on, you're going to go on Instagram or YouTube, and you're going to listen to someone's inspiring story.
Mm.
They went from zero to hero, broke as a joke, to making some money, because these people just don't know how to be inspired.
Yeah,
So they don't feel inspired. Because
that's
what
true.
happens is they'll look at Dr. Matt and see Dr. Matt today. They'll see the house, or they'll see the kids, or they'll see the
Mhm.
product, but they don't know what it was like when I was grinding it out.
That's
They
true.
can't even relate to that because they just see me now.
Mhm.
They only met me now. But proof of concept is when those people, I get them around my
Mhm.
friends that have been my friends a long time, and they knew when I could barely afford a bean burrito at Tuesday,
Yeah.
at the taco shop,
Mhm.
and they were like, "Oh man, we knew." But and they'll say this: he was just as generous then. He was just as passionate then. I was broke and passionate.
Mhm.
So then when they relate to someone else, because they're not going to believe me because they only know me in this context.
Yeah.
Same is true when they start seeing people tell their stories and they get inspired. As soon as they get inspiration back, they break stinking thinking,
Mhm.
renew their mind, and rewire it. See what fires together, wires together in your brain. And I say this stat a lot because people don't understand it. I love a couple books. It's the biology of belief is number one.
Mhm.
The the other book by Joe Dispenza, The Power of Breaking You.
Mhm.
And you break this mentality of old stinking thinking,
Mhm.
because we have 60,000 thoughts a day,
Wow.
a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
93% of those thoughts are the same thoughts you had yesterday.
Wow.
So that means 7% you're having new thoughts today due to maybe new experiences or new conversations. But in that 7%, they say that about 6% of it are negative thoughts. So you're having 1% new positive thoughts every day.
Dang.
How sad is that?
Yeah, it's like the odds are stacked against you,
Yeah,
kinda.
well, because unless you are
Yeah,
aware of that,
and start
then
shifting
you're
it.
like, you know what? So purposely, even when all hell's breaking loose, I'll purposely put on an inspirational song, watch a video, watch a movie that I love. It's like, what is that movie that brings back some winning for you?
Mhm.
And so if you can get around, like I'm reading that book, actually, you told me about the Jocko book.
Yeah, that's a good book.
Dude, there's something in that book that just lights me
Yeah, fires
up,
you up, yeah, and it's so
So
simple too. It's
it's
nothing
so
complex.
simple.
Yeah.
But unless you
Mhm.
read that to pull your mind higher, it's like, if someone's stuck in a pit, what do? You throw them a rope and you pull them out.
Mhm.
So to be inspired to think different, that your story matters, is you just got to get some inspiration, and
Yeah.
it brings new life
Yeah.
in you. Same thing is, I don't even know how people don't go to church, but the truth is, a lot of people go to the church and that church sucks and it's not inspiring.
Yeah.
They're talking about fire and hell and brimstone and
Mhm.
you suck and you're a sinner. I wouldn't go to that church ever.
Yeah.
I want to go to the church that tells me, oh man, I'm a conqueror.
Mhm.
I'm more than enough. Man, I'm greater is he that is in me than greater is he that's in the world. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
That's true,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? So it's like your church programs you on how the gospel reads to you.
Mm.
Is God here to condemn you, or is he here to light you up and make you the man or the woman you're called to be? It was like, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna read that part of the Bible.
Mm.
Rex Crane, who's a good friend of mine, he said something so profound. And he goes, when I started to go all in for Jesus, he said, I only read the miracles for 1 year.
Wow.
He only read the miracles that Jesus did for 1 year. He read no other part of the Bible. And so then on the second year, he only read the New Testament. So he already knew Jesus was a miracle worker and he came to heal. And he had that ingrained for a year. Then, and you know how powerful that dude is. He
Yeah.
rolls in and he just drops it like it's hot. And he walks in great anointing, great power, because there is a thing on the inside that you can't recalibrate, man. He is. And then the second year, only New Testament. He said as it wasn't till the third year that he even started to look into the Old Testament, because that's the law,
It's
that's
legalistic
judgment,
stuff.
it's a little legalism. But he already knew, so his foundation was built on this.
Yeah.
And then he went back, and the Old Testament was so powerful because it gave this even more power.
Yeah.
And it was such a great lesson. I'm like, bro, how true is that in the business world? You hang out with people that are not successful or their business is failing, or you keep getting around people that are on the struggle bus. Next thing you know, you find yourself on their bus. So the thing is, I just say you cannot for a season be around the struggle bus people until your bus is moving so fast, you have your own bus driver, that they'll want to get off their bus and get on your bus.
Yeah.
I do not, my friends, they'll all go through it. They're still my friends. But if I'm going to go out to dinner with somebody, I'm going to go out to dinner with someone that inspires me.
Yeah.
If my wife and I are going to go on a double date night, that marriage better inspire us. We're not going there to feel sorry for their marriage.
Yeah.
If they're walking through some stuff, we'll be there as a pastor or a counselor. But if I get to choose who I have dinner with, I want to have dinner with a couple that I'm going to leave there going, babe, did you hear that? It's
Yeah.
like our friends are thinking about getting engaged, and we want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to us to see that, that fresh kind of like
Yeah.
passion for his fiance, that he's about to pop the question. And I'm like, oh, let's go. That's the stuff that inspires me.
Yeah.
Can we be around that? If we could be around that and live in that constant inspiration, your brand will be inspiring. But if you talk to dark people, heavy people, look at their brand.
Oh, for
It's
sure. Yeah.
usually a little dark.
100%. 100%. So what I'm hearing you saying is pretty much this limiting belief, but it's really much you have the power to recalibrate, and it's by intentionality. It's the biggest thing is, I feel like if you can't get that down, it's hard to do the other stuff. It's hard because then if not, you're gonna feel like a fraud most of the stuff. So recalibration, intentionality. I think your mind mastery cards are super good for that too. I think they're
I
really
wrote them
good.
for me.
Yeah, they're really good for just as a simple action step you could do every single day is just because that helps recalibrate your thinking. Like you said, like you have those thoughts, every single day, and most of them are negative. So if you can recalibrate to be intentional to get some positive ones in there, I think that's
Bro,
good. Yeah.
you're hitting the nail on the head, because here's the thing. When you read a card, here's what happens. You'll read that declaration, which is what it is. And that declaration, you may not believe it. So you keep declaring it until your brain rewires to have affinity with it. How do you know the difference is? It goes from a declaration. You don't have to believe what the card says, but what you're doing is when you speak, you use a part of your brain. So you're hitting a part of your brain, speaking new words, a new language. Then what happens is your eyes, because you're reading it, go to a different part of your brain. So as you read these words that maybe you haven't read before, it's recalibrating the part that goes to visual part of your brain. Then you have to, when you audibly speak it, you see it, guess what your next is? You hear it. It actually resets 3 parts of your brain at one time.
Wow.
It's ninja tricks, man. And even if you don't believe it, it's a declaration.
Yeah.
Okay, you're declaring a thing. You're not sure you believe it yet. You're not sure if you're walking in that yet, but you're declaring. You declare it enough until one day you feel your brain and your spirit, because you're 18 inches away from breakthrough. The minute your heart and your brain get in sync with that verbiage, you know what? I do deserve that. You know what? I am that guy. You know what? I am that girl. Then what happens is now it goes from a declaration to a confession, and everything changes.
Yeah.
But most people just like, they'll read that card and be like, nah, it can never be me. Well, guess what? That's your curse over your life. And you're saying, so it's a ceiling that you put there because you said that could never be me. Or maybe someone that plans that you'll never be successful.
Yeah.
You know what? You're never going to have enough money. You know what? No, you'll never get married. And then they believe that. They put their amen to that and they do it instead of just declaring until it becomes a confession. The minute your body puts an amen to it, I am that dude. then all of a sudden it goes that confession of faith. You're walking at a new level of certainty, a
Yeah.
new level of confidence, and then you'll see everything shift in your life.
Yeah,
You
it's
attract where you're at.
100%. It's next level. And I think, and it's so funny because, like, even for me, like, because I when I started my entrepreneurship journey, I was like really big into like the whole like affirmations, like motivation, because I wasn't really Christian yet. And then as I became more Christian, I'm like, this is all from the Bible. It's just ripped off, and they just call it the universe instead of calling it God. And then,
Well,
and
that
then
opened up their market for them.
yeah, exactly, right, and then the more I actually almost got really, like, repelled because of that. I was like, it's very, like, woo-hooey, like, it's like, and then I became so systematic and so, like, action-oriented that I actually stopped doing the affirmations completely, and I realized how also that was hurting me too, and it was not that I needed to stop doing it, but I needed to combine it with the biblical principles, and I think your Mind Mastery cards do that really well.
Well, I always say this, it's like wax on, wax off. I
Mhm.
think the Karate Kid was prophetic. You know what I mean? Wax on, wax off. And one of my business mentors said, never let your business hand touch this hand.
Mm,
That don't let these hands touch. But he says they got to overlap. He says it's a timing thing.
mm,
And so if you don't have the systems and the structure, you're going to be
yeah,
floppy.
yeah.
If you don't have this, keep your mind
Mm,
renewed and fresh
yeah.
and inspired, then what happens is you get so systematic, you'll lose the relational component.
Mhm,
And he goes, in business, everything is systems and relationships.
mhm.
He goes, you got to keep speaking life over it because stuff gets hard as an entrepreneur.
It's
But
true.
you also got to have this so you can, how many people we know, they're really good one-on-one, but then they can't scale.
Mhm.
We were talking
Yeah,
about, earlier, just all these different agencies that come out and they promise you the moon. And,
yeah,
I've had everybody tell me, oh, I got this. Oh, sure, you can do a website good. You could shoot a video.
yep,
You could throw it out there, but guess what? You have no blueprint. You have
mhm,
no systems, new structure. You might be good with 1, 2, 3 clients,
yep,
but the minute you get more clients, their attention to you fades, and then they just blame you.
yeah, 100%,
Oh, it's
yeah.
you. I can't ever get with you. Oh, it's you. I can't.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no,
yeah, their
your
just systems can't handle
their
it.
systems can't handle it,
Yeah,
so
they
they
don't have
can't
the
scale.
capacity, yep. That's 100% true, and even, like, going into the branding too, because I know you were asking, how we help, because the systems is a part of it, but it's actually one of the last steps. So the first thing is the identity aspect, right? Getting them to understand that they have something worth telling, because if not, then everything else, like I said, is gonna be hard. From there, then we understand, okay, what is the story that we wanna paint, and what it is the emotion that we wanna invoke. So, for example, we'll say, "Hey, like, you're" let's say a coach, and you want to, what do coaches do? They inspire, they teach, they motivate, all these things, right? So then we want people to relate with you and associate you with those words. So then we then reverse engineer everything from down to like your brand story, your mission, your vision. How do we then encapsulate that into little forms of like details, whether it's content, whether it's the color palette, all that stuff? It plays an important part, but that, like, you can't do that, you can't like put the cart in front of the horse and do that first, because some people do, they get really excited for their logo, their
Yeah.
color
Oh,
palette,
yeah.
but they don't do the hard work first. And then that stuff, when you do it correctly, pairs really well. Every color that we use, even on our branding, my personal branding, your branding, is intentional. Certain colors evoke certain emotions, and we use that, but it only works really well when you have a good story behind it, because you can't just make something look really good and then think that it's going to have the same results as like Nike or all these other big companies.
You just kind of went over this thing that's I don't think a lot of people know. You said colors provoke
Mhm.
emotion.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at any fast food chain, look, what is it? It's reds,
Yep.
oranges.
Hmm.
You look at McDonald's, you look at Burger King, you
Yep.
go
Yellows.
because yellow, when you drive by them, they know those colors make you hungry.
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah.
people don't even know that.
Yeah.
Their color schemes are set up
Hmm.
to elicit food
Yep.
cravings.
Hmm.
Like little slogans, little things, little set. When you walk in, there's a smell to it.
Yeah.
You can smell McDonald's French fries a mile away.
100%, yeah. And even if you wanna go super in depth with it, like, I'm sure you read the book Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah.
Such a good book. So if you reverse engineer that book, it says, like, habits are first started with cues. So those cues come up And really what branding is taking advantage of that psychology, where then they create cues for you, like colors, or slogans, to get you to be like, oh, now I'm hungry, or now actually I'm really craving that Sprite that they have at McDonald's, or those fries. Like those are they're using that psychology against us. And I don't, it sounds bad when you say it like that, but I mean that's what all business is, right? It's really like persuasive information, really. But that's a huge aspect. Colors in itself, like I'm obsessed like with colors, because there's so much psychology to colors, and there's a lot of biblical aspect to colors too. Have you ever looked into like how colors play a part in the Bible?
Bro, I don't even like wearing black jeans. Okay. I've been on the color wagon for so long.
Hmm.
I might be wearing black jeans, but I
Hmm.
got the brightest, craziest, you know, I
Yeah.
got the craziest socks on right now. I got the craziest underwear on right now. Not that you need to know that, but I look at these creatives that are always wearing black. There's energy in every color.
Hmm.
Every color has a vibrational frequency.
Hmm.
So whatever you have closest to your
Yep.
stuff, is like, your body or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I want vibrational tones that make my body feel alive.
Yeah. That's
Colors are insanely
yeah.
important.
100%.
I know the biblical aspect of
Hmm.
it. I know the vibrational frequency of every
Hmm.
color. Colors are legit. I don't wear
Yeah.
color. I mean, sometimes my wife's like, those colors don't go together. I said, I know. I just wanted to brighten up the day. She goes, well, can you at least use colors that actually look good on you? I'm like, okay, I'll do
Yeah,
that.
it's really interesting how that in itself is such an interesting topic. I think like again, like they evoke so much energy, so much emotion. But they have to be utilized correctly. I mean, yeah, like I'm like fascinating with like obviously there's a science to it, but I always like to reference a biblical aspect, because I feel like obviously God created this earth, He created us, and He's like the best creator out of all of us, right? Like He knows what's up, and even in the Bible, the way He uses color, which is really interesting, and I'll tap on it like very lightly because it's such a like it'll go down a rabbit hole, but the way that there's the primary colors, and then we have colors that mix. So even in the Bible, when God is referencing colors like blue, always it's authority based.
Hmm.
So it's like similar how when we see a cop, they're usually wearing blue. So it's always authority based. And then when he references the color red, it's usually like blood, sacrifice, like Jesus. And then when you look at what red and blue combined together make purple, but purple is a color of royalty.
Hmm.
And what is royalty in the Bible is the combination of authority and love that from a sacrifice that Jesus made. And to me is insane, the fact that the Bible's already complex, but the fact that he can orchestrate colors in there for people like me that are creative is just, to me, is insane. And so for me, if God uses colors, so am I. Like, so it's really interesting, and that's just a whole nother thing in
That
its
is
own.
like,
But
now we're going to have to do part 3.
go down, just dive into
God's
color.
colored patterns.
Yeah, it's really interesting for sure. But
Yeah.
and then from there, once we have the colors, the branding, the logos, from your story to the visual representation of that, then from there it's like, how are you going to show up? So how consistently are you going to be online, whether it's a website, social media, billboards, whatever it is that you choose to do, to consistently be top of mind. And then people like consistency, and they like patterns. Like humans are designed to recognize patterns. So you're showing up consistently online, or even like the psychology of how to become a local celebrity is pick a bar, show up every day and talk to one new person, and you'll become a local celebrity, right? Like it's the same thing with social media. Show up every day, interact with at least one or two new people, and then just be consistent with it. And then when you have the coloring, the branding, the story, then people will start to feel a certain way about you. And they'll say, oh, well, now every time I talk to Dr. Matt, I feel inspired. I feel like I can do anything. I feel like I can, have my marriage and my business. And now they start to then associate you with that. They start to think of you that way, and now that's your brand. And it's all pointing them in that direction. You're not telling them what to think or feel, but you're by creating, like, again, Inception, right? Is because I love that movie. Is you're fostering an environment to make them feel a certain way, and that's the best way of persuading people, is making them feel like they're the ones who made that decision.
Yeah.
So,
I was thinking to myself too, it's just being consistent. We had one of our pastors at our church do the whole Jim and Jesus thing.
hmm,
And it started off, I'm like, oh, that's cute. But
yeah,
he was consistent every
oh
day. And
yeah,
next thing you know, I'm following. Next thing you know, my friends are posting. Next thing you know, he has random meat companies sending him meat.
yep,
He's just like, wow, I had no idea the power. And I said, bro,
hmm,
it's people, you inspired people.
yeah,
And
100%,
it was so fascinating to watch. He was just consistent. It was a 30-day challenge, Jim's Jesus, but it grew and grew far outside our church.
hmm,
People, I had a friend in Australia going, dude, I'm watching one of your pastors. I'm like, That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I told him, like, what's next? You can't just stop now.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like just the power of it, like having a good like he obviously has a good backing of understanding like what his reasoning for that was.
Yeah.
He had a story around that,
Yeah.
and then he then just showed up. He even called out other people to do it, and then
Yeah.
he just did it every day. And then that alone is what builds a brand. I mean, like at the end of the day, like showing up every day in a certain format, people then associate you, whether you show up late, whether you show up on time, whether you show up wearing certain clothes, whether you show up, like maybe, I don't know, like always on your phone, like people are then going to associate, whether they know it or not. We're always judging people subconsciously
Yep.
and keeping a scorecard of like, oh, this person's always with paying attention to details, or they're not. And then you
Yeah.
associate them with certain things, put them in categories. Cause again, we're pattern driven. So
And you can
if,
break those
yeah,
patterns.
exactly. And then if you can just understand the psychology behind that, and then just play the game is really what it is, and then just do that. And obviously, as long as it fits with your core values and all that stuff, and I mean, this information, you can do whatever you want with it. Obviously, you can use it to manipulate. Our government does a really good job at that.
Oh,
But
man.
that's a whole nother topic as
Don't
well.
get me started, man. It's
But
another rabbit trail.
but yeah,
48 Laws of Power. Have you read that book?
yeah, it's a good book. Yeah,
Dangerous book.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely
Dangerous
is.
book. But I read it just so I know what my enemy's doing. So
100%.
when I
Yeah.
have people trying to drop one of those 48 Laws of Power on me, I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, bro, I read the book. You don't got to treat me like
Yeah.
that.
No, 100%. Yeah.
But I know we got to wrap this plane. Could you give someone a book that you think is a good book to start at? Because I could hear all this information, they might be overwhelmed. Like, I suck. I'm not going to start.
Yeah.
But how can we encourage them to know you have to start? Branding's pertinent. Your brand, you are the brand.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, your stand is your brand is one of my, if you guys want to be a great book of someone that's influenced
Hmm.
me, Patrick Tempo, he wrote the book, Your Brand is Your Stand, or Your Stand is Your Brand, whatever it is. It's,
Yeah.
but your stand is your brand. What you stand for is your brand. And that book rattles a lot of people in one of my masterminds. Everyone reads that book because it will help them find out what are they standing for in life, and what they're standing for needs to be their brand. And so I've had a lot of people that change the way they think, they do life because of that book. Do you have another one you mentioned?
Yeah, so there's a couple ones. Right now, I think what's relevant to kind of the way social media is moving now, I think a really good one is called Zag. So
Zag?
yeah, it's really much in a world where everybody's zigging, you should zag. So right now, everybody's on this wave of branding, and everyone has a phone, they're on content. So it's like it can get a little bit oversaturated. So knowing how to understand what your brand is and how to zag in a world of zigs, pretty much.
Got it.
So then that way, not only do you have your brand, but can you stand out? Because that's the other aspect too, is, maybe you have all this stuff and then you're showing up, but then maybe you're looking like everybody else, right? And it may be because you're influenced by those people, or because you, again, in the comparison game, but it helps understand that psychology of okay, how can I zag in a world of zigs. So it's I think relevant for right now. There's a lot of great ones out there, but I think that's a good one for
Okay.
what's going on now, at
I
least.
love it. Well, thank you for that insight. Well, man, Santi, it's always great chatting with you over new ideas. So I'm sure this will lead to a lot more discussions of what's possible in the entrepreneurial space. You guys
Yep.
check out Optic Element, what Santi and his team are doing. And, we didn't even get to the point, but I will say this. When you're looking at agencies, the questions you ask make a difference. So
Hmm.
if you're watching this and you're like, I don't even know how to interview them, do me a favor. You can DM us, or you can just have put a comment in this YouTube channel. If you're watching it on YouTube, whatever the platform is, reach out to us asking, just put in agency with the question mark. And I will be able to, Santi, let's you and I figure out just even a one sheet on how we can help people
Yeah.
ask questions. Because I have so many people, and I'm one of them, that have worked with agencies that promised the moon, and guess what? They didn't deliver.
Hmm.
And I don't want to be frustrated with them. It was my fault. I take full responsibility. I didn't know the questions to ask them. I didn't know where to start, so I
Yeah.
just believed their crap. And whatever they told me I thought they'd deliver on, they didn't. I've been disappointed at least 3 times. So then when you go work with a legit agency,
Hmm.
you already got scar tissue or trust issues that it takes time to let your guard down. That's what, Santi did a great job and got my guard down. But God, I got to trust somebody,
Hmm.
because so many people can let you down. But if you learn the questions to ask, then you put yourself in a position to win. And can they scale? Because when they get multiple clients, can they still give you the attention you need? So we'll work on that. DMS, hope you enjoyed this episode. We will see you on the next episode of The Maverick Entrepreneur.
I am a fighter, got a dream.